Hey guys, Tim here at jkboots. Today we're going to answer all the questions that you have about oiling your boots, where, when, how often, what does it do. So just kind of dive right in right away. There's a lot of opinions out there about oiling. All the information that I'm going to share with you is things that I have seen and watched over many years of experience from all kinds of different leathers and just customer feedback and stuff. So everything's coming from that kind of pool of knowledge and pool of just time, you know, from dealing with so many different people in all kinds of different environments and parts of the country and different jobs. And so this is where that's coming from. So before we even oil their boots, let's talk about first, you know, kind of these basic things. What oil to use, how often to oil them, what to even do before you oil them. So in terms of what oil to use, there's a few different big brands out there. Honestly, they're all good. Can't say a bad thing about a single one. There's like beeswax based, you know, boot and leather cares, and then there's just like the regular oil based ones. There's the waxes, there's the hard, you know, cream stuff, and then there's the liquidy stuff. I prefer the straight up oil that comes just, you know, in any kind of bottle or container. It has a liquid base to it. I'm not a big fan of the wax just because I feel like the leather, it's almost like thirsty and asking to drink, and so I feel that a liquid oil does a lot better for just the long term and hydrating the leather and all that stuff. In terms of, like, again, branding, it's really whatever you'd like. I don't think that you can make a wrong decision here. They're all very, very good. What to do before you oil your boots? So absolutely you want to clean them off, especially if you're in kind of a more muddy, dirty environment. It would be bad to oil your boots all muddy and dirty and whatever, you know, just nasty. So real simple. Again, people have kind of unique things. Some people like to do saddle soap, some people just like to hose them down, some people are very gentle about it. I don't think you can really make a mistake here either. I think it's appropriate and it is okay. Lightly hose them down, get a bristle brush if you got the rough out, brush any kind of nasty dirt or whatever out of the rough out, just to get that out of there so there's nothing between the oil and the leather, and letting the oil do what it needs to do. And just in general, it's just going to be a mucky, nasty kind of experience if your boots are kind of gross and they're dirty with stuff and you're starting to oil them, and then that oil will not even seep into the leather but then just dry all around the boot and kind of create this like thick, crusty layer. I've seen a lot of that where guys will not clean their boots. They'll send them back to us, like let's say for a resole or something, and they've never cleaned them and they just wax them and oil them and wax them and oil them. You like literally see like this thick, nasty layer that's built up over the leather because they never cleaned them one time. So it's not, you don't have to go super crazy about it, but at least just some light maintenance. How often is also a question we get a lot. So I think how often, again, it's relative to you and your work environment, but I think a good general base is, I say, about once a month. And the kind of little thing, you know, spectrum that you can use is if you touch your boots and they feel moist and like very, like almost damp, you do not need to oil them. Like, if anything, you're overdoing it. If you touch your boots and they are hard and stiff, and it's like if you bend it like it's about to crack, they're too dry, they're asking, they're thirsty, they're asking for oil. And so just kind of, it's to the touch, it's to the eye, it's kind of what do you need? I've seen the same customer with the same pair of boots go from fighting fire in New Mexico during the summer, where he's oiling his boots once every 2-3 weeks, then go and do like a logging job in Oregon, or like, you know, working as like whatever his off-season job is, where he's around a lot of wet environments, you know, oil all the time, you know, whatever, doing whatever he's doing, and then he's like, oh, I didn't even need to oil my boots one time, you know. And so it's very based upon where you're at and what you're doing. For the guy that's in the desert heat and it's like consistently all day, all the time, dry, horrible, tough conditions, oil. For the guy that's a diesel mechanic and he's got oil dripping on his boots all day long, and he's indoors maybe, yeah, you don't need to oil them once a month, because then you'd be overdoing it. So just keep a spectrum, keep it to the eye. Same thing with cleaning. I don't think you need to clean them every day. I don't think you even need to clean them every week. You know, after all, it is a tough, heavy-duty leather boot. That's why I say that once a month timeline feels good to me. I personally, I spend most of my day on the shop floor, indoors, concrete floor, but indoors. I don't need to oil my boots every month. I mean, I need to oil them like every 6 months, because, you know, I just spend most of my time in a shop environment, on a concrete floor, here, there, kind of everywhere. I'm not out in the mud. I'm not out in the, you know, nasty gravel. I'm not out fighting a fire. And so my personal boots don't demand so much oiling. So just keep a good base for yourself right there. To answer the question of why you should even oil them, the big basic things: longevity, care, meaning like you know, if you take care of your product, it's going to last longer. I've seen, can't explain how many times, buy a pair of boots. It's a good product, very good stuff. We do a good job, good quality boot, done the right way. It is ultimately not invincible, but I've just seen how it does affect the amount of care that you have on your boots, how long they do last. And I've seen customers don't oil their boot one time, 18 months, 20 months go by, and they're shot because they were wearing them every single day, 12 hours a day. And because, we're talking hundreds of thousands of steps and millions of twists and turns over a 2-year, year and a half period. And the leather never once got hydrated, and never once got taken care of. It never once got cleaned or conditioned, and the vamp cracked. And it feels as if, oh man, my boots blew out prematurely. And yes, it did blow out prematurely, but because of a lack of maintenance and care. It's almost like buying a brand new pickup, and you decide to change the oil at 50,000 miles. Probably not a good idea, probably gonna affect the longevity of the truck, probably gonna do some damage to your engine. So it's the same idea. It's a basic common, I think, principle that can be applied to not just leather boots, but any good product you have. You gotta take care of it. And so that's one of the big reasons we highly encourage cleaning and maintaining your boots and oiling them. Also, I think that oiling your boots can help with waterproofing, and it can help keep just moisture outside of your boots, off of your feet. So I do think that help. I do think that does help. The one time I will say that I recommend the wax is if you're in like a super nasty environment. I remember we had there's 2 hotshot crews in Alaska. We do a lot of boots for firefighters, not just firefighters, but that's a big customer base of ours. And there were 2 hotshot crews in Alaska that they're in the tundra, and that's what they would call it. And it's just the nastiest, muckiest, nastiest place. It's so wet all the time. And I sent in all of their boxes a bunch of boot wax and also a particular waterproofing spray. And I told them to apply it in such a way so you should oil your boots, do the wax, and then a waterproof spray over the top. And almost every single one of them came back to me later at the end of the season, like, dude, our boots stayed dry, our feet stayed dry the whole time. And that was just because that's what that wax does. It goes over the top of the leather, and the water just runs off. The water just runs off. So that was cool, that was good. That might not work for everybody, but that's the one time that I would suggest having a thick wax over your boots. It's when it's super nasty, it's super wet. Maybe you're just in the muddiest, yuckiest conditions. Do the wax. The oil won't do as good in that particular environment to keep them waterproofing. You'd have to go next level to the wax. For everything else, I would recommend the oil. So there's definitely some different opinions on this particular topic, but since I was a kid, the way that my father taught me and the way that I've shown and instructed all of our customers and what I've seen works the best is when you receive your boots brand new for the first time, I think that you should oil them. And especially in these key areas like the ankle, both sides, and then in the toe area. The reason being is because the leather that we use, it's thick, it's heavy duty. And just getting some oil in these particular hotspot areas, it's just gonna help the leather mold to your foot that much quicker. I do not believe in this, do not oil them, let them break in naturally thing. I think that just is causing you more discomfort in the break-in process, and you're going to oil them eventually. So you can start with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You don't have to. But I recommend it because I think it makes the break-in process that much easier and that much better. And I don't think that you should worry about, oh, well, if I oil them right now, then they're gonna overstretch or over break in. Also not possible, just because we use not cheap leather, but very good leather that has good fibers, good grains. It's not going to, and get all loosey-goosey on you. That will not happen. There's a couple key areas to avoid, and then there's a couple key areas to make sure that you don't miss. Again, clean them if they're dirty before you start. And just to get going right away, so the first thing that I do is let's talk about what to avoid and not to oil. Do not oil the leather midsole or the leather heel base. Why? The leather that we use in the heel base and in the midsole is a different kind of leather than the upper. It is called an oak tan or veg tan, some people call it, leather. So it's not made and tanned the same way as the upper. It is very hard and stiff, and it's that way on purpose because we use it for the heel base and the midsole. It's rigid, and it's designed that way to keep its form because it's built to take all the pounding. It's just like the foundation of the boot. And there's all these adhesives that are bonding the rubber cap and the rubber sole to the midsole. When oil gets on those spots, it'll over time seep into that leather. And then what does oil do when it meets adhesive? It eats the adhesive away. So what I've seen so many times, especially way back in the day when we had less like YouTube instructional videos, people would oil this area and then slowly the sole and heel would like delaminate. And they would almost be like, whoa, Like, what's going on? And what was going on was they were oiling that area, and the oil was eating away at the glues and the adhesives, and then it would slowly start to delaminate. Thankfully, we stitch our boots through. We have screws, we have nails, you know, so it's not like soles were falling off. But that can sometimes lead to this delamination thing. The second really, really big spot that you do not want to oil is the eyelets, the hooks and the eyelets. There's a line of stitching right here, a line of sewing that connects the tongue to the quarters here, and it's right there. I always just tell people, keep your oil on the other side of that line of stitching. There's absolutely no need to oil the area of leather where the eyelets and hooks are. What will happen if you do? If you over oil it and you just put any kind of oil there, what's going to happen is the oil is going to seep into the eyelets, it's going to seep into the hooks, and every day when you're lacing your boots up, you're tightening your hooks, you're tightening your eyelets, it's loosening that leather, and the eyelet's going to move, it's going to move, the hook's going to move, it's going to get softer, and boom, you're going to pop it out. Because there's literally a hole punched in smaller than the diameter of the hook or the eyelet, and then the eyelet and hook is punched in, so it's a tight, snug fit, but that oil loosens that area, and over time, as you're lacing your boots up every day, it's going to pop out. I've seen that happen, and it's pretty disappointing because it's a really hard fix, and sometimes it's actually unfixable, and then that forces people to buy new boots. And so don't do that. Those are the really only two areas that I think are of actually any major concern to avoid oiling. Other than that, everything is fair game. So again, cleaning your boots if they're dirty before oiling, really simple, guys. There's not a lot to it. You know, in most oil providers, they'll give you some kind of, you know, swab or dipper or brush. If you don't have that, simple rag will do the trick. I just get a little bit on and I just go right to town. I mean, I follow that line that I said not to. I'm gonna cover the entire quarter. I like to do, like, when I say a good thick coat, that means to me, like, I can visibly see that there's a layer of liquid over the upper, and I see it seeping through. So like, I'll do like 2 passes on this quarter area, and I'm probably not gonna go over there again. Like, that's it. Like, that's all that it needs. It doesn't need to do that much. And I'll continue the same trend right over the rough out. You can even get over like the sole stitching, you know, right over the rough out, right over the top. Go again. You know, I wanna see, and just look how that oil disappears into the leather. That's awesome. That's what I want. To me, that's good. To me, that tells me, hey, the leather was thirsty. It's now saturated. That oil is in there. It's going to soften it up. It's going to take care of it. It's going to loosen the leather. It's not going to crack. It's not going to dry. It's probably going to provide some kind of waterproofing. And I'll just go around the entire boot like this all day long. You know, over the heel counter, no problem. I try not to get in there. I don't want to do that, but you know, I mean, just right here in this area, completely okay. Up the backstay, you can do the pull loop if you'd like. Up the quarters, you can do the tongue. Sometimes, a lot of times people don't oil the tongue, and then it gets dry and brittle and it cracks. Oil it up, loosen it up. Don't let it get dry and brittle and crack, you know. Expand the longevity of your boots. Flip it over to the other side. Repeat the same process. Like, it's hard to make a mistake here. I think more so than anything, it's sometimes, you know, people have different opinions, and like, I think sometimes customers could be worried about overdoing something or underdoing something. I think as long as you keep those, like, the main basic, like, check marks, and that would be what not to oil, how often to do it, and, you know, don't overdo it. Really, you can't make a mistake. I don't think that we should spend too much time worrying about the brands of oil, or if there's certain components in the oil to worry about, or, oh man, you know, do I do wax or oil? Like, okay, if you just do wax, it's also okay. You know, it's also my own personal opinion about the oil. I think I like oil better, but you can use wax, you know. So don't be worried. Like, it's hard to make a mistake. The product ultimately is so awesome, and the quality of material and build is so high that the margin for error of something like a oil brand, or, you know, wax or oil, it's like, it's not going to affect that seriously. The big things that I mentioned, like oiling the hooks and eyes, oiling the midsole and the heel base, you know, overdoing it, oiling them every single day, that kind of stuff I believe will, because those are big ticket items in my opinion. But just make sure you're doing those things correctly, and other than that, you can't make a mistake. I highly encourage people to rotate pairs. That way it's kind of like, sometimes if you have a pair that's super, super dirty, you know, clean them up, oil them up, leave them alone for a day or two, you know, let them rest. I've heard that phrase often. Wear your other pair. go get them dirty, whatever, mucky, clean them off, get the other pair going. You know, like it feels nice to do that. It feels nice to put your feet in a fresh pair that's, you know, been resting for a little bit, that's kind of aired out, that's dried out, you know, from just heavy wear. So that's another, I think, good little like nugget there to do. And just be smart, you know, like any leather baseball glove or leather car seats or good old leather jacket that you have, it's gonna be the same principles on these boots. And again, just the quality of material and build is just so awesome and so high, and we feel so confident about. It's hard to make a mistake on this. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Please comment below what else you'd like to see, what else you'd like us to talk about. Check out our website, sign up for that free boot oil if you haven't yet. And just thanks for following us and being fans and being customers. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next video.